day to all of you. I'm here to present our study Indicator Distance and Color Effects and Comprehension of Multiple Time Series Graph. I am Rosemary Seva, and I've done this study with my students Katrina, Chinjen, Nicole, Estoista, and Judy Anwu. We are from Salle University, Philippines. Salle is a private university in the Philippines. It is a Catholic co-educational institution founded in 1911 by the Brothers of the Christian Schools. The university is renowned for its academic excellence, prolific and relevant research, and involved community service. Organizations gather too much data, and the main challenge is how to make them usable by organizing and designing them such that they provide quick and accurate understanding. Even people who have advanced education find it difficult to read graphs, especially time series graphs. The simplicity of the line graph lends itself to prevalent use in illustrating trends in multiple contexts. Time series data is usually represented using line graphs to show how a variable's behavior over time. However, the increase in the number of time series creates visual clutter that affects the readability of data. The visualization of multiple time series is facilitated by the use of colors and other unique visual properties such as line characteristics to distinguish each series of points. Two visual properties of graphs, for example, color hue and space, were tackled in our study because we think that they are relevant in improving the comprehension of multiple time series graphs. Seckler, an author that was involved in research of line graphs, noted that there is a dearth of literature on the effect of saturation on data visualization aside from hue and brightness, even in online environments. The effect of horizontal distance between data points in graph comprehension is not well studied in literature. We are not aware of other studies that considered horizontal distance between data points in line graphs, especially multiple time series containing more than 3 data points. These graphs are easily misinterpreted because of information density. The design of multiple time series graphs is challenging because there are many data points, oftentimes exceeding 5 to indicate trend. The design, therefore, should facilitate accurate and quick interpretation, especially in tasks that intermediate levels of understanding. In this study, only the slope task was considered. This requires identification of the time series with the highest increase throughout the entire time period. Thus, we posit two hypotheses. The first is the use of red monochrome palette improves slope comparison of multiple time series graph because according to Fortner and Mayer, tasks that require close attention, um, if we use red hue there, it will facilitate quick and accurate interpretation because the central part of our eye consists mostly of sensors that are sensitive to this hue. The second hypothesis is as distance between indicators decreases, comprehension of 4 time series graphs improves because a large horizontal distance between data points can negatively affect task performance according to here. Therefore, in our study, we try to investigate whether decreasing the distance property may improve the performance of the users in terms of readability of multiple time series line charts. Going to the methodology, we employed 88 university students in a controlled environment. We also controlled the ambient lighting and the computer size. The task is the slope task, meaning to say they have to identify the time series with the highest slope. For example, in this graph, we asked which employee had the highest overall increase in sales, and we gave them 4 different possible answers. There were two independent variables here, which is the U and horizontal distance. We considered red, blue, and green U's, and the horizontal distance, we have the low, medium, and high horizontal distance with the aspect ratio of 40%, 50%, and 60%. For the dependent variables, we considered two because these two measures are usually employed in identifying whether a graph is good or not, whether participants can accurately determine the meaning of the graph, and the response time, which is the time to answer the graph question. The red, green, and blue hues were used in the experiment because they are approximately equally spaced in the color wheel. The lightness and saturation of the selected base hues were then varied to maximize visual distinction. We used the method proposed by Wang, where a monochrome palette consisting of four variations of a single hue was generated as can be seen in the figure. First, the levels of saturation and lightness for the monochrome palette were derived by dividing the saturation and lightness scales into four approximately equally spaced levels: 20, 40, 60%, and 80%, as you can see here. Two sets of monochrome palettes were generated. For each set, either lightness or saturation was kept constant. Thus, there were 16 palettes developed for each base hue. There are many versions of monochrome palettes generated. We use the contrast ratio to choose the palette to be used for the experiment, since the color variation in a certain palette should be perceptible. The color set with the lowest standard deviation of contrast ratios were chosen for each of the hues. There are three conditions chosen for the distance experiment: low, medium, and high distance between these data points. The height to width ratio of the low, medium, and high settings were 40, 50%, and 60%, respectively. These ratios were taken from default visualization ratios from known charting tools such as Excel. Considering these ratios, the chart widths were changed while maintaining the same chart height. A chart height of 6 centimeters was chosen because this chart height can follow the specified height to width ratios by only adjusting the chart width. The specific settings can be seen in the table. The color scheme of Excel was used to generate the graphs. The experiment was performed inside a room with a desktop computer. The participants were asked to sign a consent form and take the Ishihara color test and the Snellen test. Those participants with visual acuity problems were asked to wear their spectacles. Prior to the experiment, each participant was also advised to answer as quickly and accurately as possible. Prior to the actual experiment, a tutorial was presented to instruct them how to answer using the program. A total of 6 questions were answered by each participant. After they were completed, the participants were asked the briefing questions. This is a set of post-experiment questions to know their experience during the experiment. The results of the experiment showed that the blue monochrome palette had the best performance in terms of reaction time and comparable performance with green in terms of accuracy. The red resulted in the worst performance in terms of reaction time and accuracy. This only means that participants were able to see the difference in slope when blue palette was used. It was expected that the abundance of red sensors in the eyes and the required focus inherent in the task will work to the advantage of this particular hue. But results showed that the reverse happened. The relative responsiveness of the eyes due to green and yellow-green hue also did not contribute to quicker decision making or accuracy of answers. One way to explain this is the low contrast ratio of the red palette compared to blue. If the contrast ratio is low, it is then more difficult to distinguish one line from another. Regarding distance, data suggests that shorter distance negatively influences response time and accuracy. The best response time was obtained for highest distance of 2.5 centimeters and highest accuracy for 2 centimeters. Contrary to color, horizontal distance between data points significantly influence reaction time and accuracy. The hypothesis about distance posited in this paper was invalidated since high and medium distance settings resulted in best reaction time and accuracy respectively. This result can be brought about by the nature of the slope task, which can be difficult to perceive if the points are close to each other. A line graph that is too tall or narrow cause a disproportionate rate of change can be construed, especially since it involves the angles and slopes of the lines. Therefore, we conclude that colors of monochrome palettes used did not significantly influence reaction time and accuracy. The hypothesis that red can improve perception of slope was rejected. In this study, graph understanding was improved, although statistically insignificant, by blue. High and medium horizontal distance settings significantly affected performance in slope tasks in validating the hypothesis. Accuracy can best be improved by using the medium distance setting, while reaction time is best at high distance setting. The results of our study can be used to improve sales report presentation, where audience are interested to know about trends indicated by slopes. Sales performance of different products over time are sometimes presented for comparison and eventual decision making. In presenting this kind of information, we recommend that the distance between data points should be 2 to 2.5 centimeters with a height to width ratio of 50%. Thank you very much for listening.